Hello there. It is a beautiful morning here in Singapore, and it just made me feel like I wanted to reach out. To be honest, I'll be honest, I've just missed you. I've really missed you. Nemo Ashong here, founder of Enjoyment and leader of the Pioneer community. It's been a while since I just made a Facebook Live where I just sat back and talked. I'll be honest with you, this might throw a bunch of you off, but I don't really have too much of an agenda. Surprise! This right here, to be really honest, if I was really going to hide nothing and hold nothing back, I feel that there's a part of me that just really wanted to reconnect with all of you through this means. And I say this because, look, I'll be real. A lot of the times when it comes to Facebook Live, it ends up being like kind of a one-directional approach, and that's something that I'll be working on to be able to engage and learn more through that experience. But there is also something that I've found from doing these Facebook Lives, which is that, quite frankly, I can't hide anything when it comes to this. Like when I do it, you might be hearing some water. This is my pool right here. But when I end up doing Facebook Lives, like whatever happens. Like I cannot hide from you. It just is whatever shows up. And people have been asking me about like why I do Facebook Lives and why I do live video and such, and why I spend, rather than pre-recording my video content and such, why do I choose to do it live? And for me, what I've found, and I don't think this is how it started out. It started out because it was just easier for me. Because quite frankly, I end up being someone that when I really, it might seem that I'm not detail oriented because I'm just like in the moment at times. But the thing is that I'm actually incredibly detail oriented. I'm so detail oriented that it ends up being something that, and we're back. So what I was saying here earlier was that, there's a reason why I do Facebook Lives versus a number of other things. And part of what just happened there is part of the reason. Like, it just gets real. So for those of you that are unclear as to what just happened, I just left Wi-Fi. And it took a while for it to reconnect. And I've decided that I'm going to go on a walk here to have this conversation because, quite frankly, that's what feels right now. But the reason that I did Facebook Lives, and I started out with it, was because it was easier for me. Like when I put too much time into thinking about what do I want to communicate, how am I going to get it out there, all that, it ended up being that I would spend most of my time thinking about doing it and then never actually getting out there and saying anything, right? Because then it became, okay, what's the right lighting? What's the right room to be in? What's the right message? How do I put it in an amazing way that it just like changes lives, blows people's minds, and ultimately results in everything that I want and more, right? And I just found that as I was continuously searching for that, I was just also continuously not actually being out there with you. And that's not fun. That's not fun for me. What is way more fun is coming out here and sharing and, being honestly to be witnessed by each of you, and then to also witness y'all as you go along. And what I found, and part of the reason why I decided that I wanted to do a Facebook Live today, is because over time, what's been coming up is that the process of being here live with you has really just allowed me to just be more natural, allowed me to just be more relaxed in what is taking place. Because, quite frankly, since I can't hide on these videos, it's really gotten me to a place of knowing like what is actually true for me, what is actually real, and what is actually authentic. And that is something that it's an amazing feeling to have, to be able to go back and say, wow, I didn't know that I felt this way, but there's no mask to be worn, eventually, especially, and I don't know how long this is going to be. It might be 5 minutes. It could be an hour or so. But eventually the truth comes out, right? Eventually what I'm honestly thinking, ends up showing itself. And it's a really cool thing. Sorry for the lighting right now. It's, the sun is out in full force and I decided I wanted to do this live while walking. So these Facebook Lives have allowed me to just be far more far more visible and far more authentic, and help me figure out me. And I think some of you have been able to go on through that journey with me. If you have, please just leave a comment. It's interesting. I'm trying to see who else is on here. I'd love to say hello to you while the conversation's taking place. I have to get out of the sun. It's a problem right now. That hasn't been the case in the past, but I'm like, I need to get out. But I bring up all this here as kind of the starting point for an overall topic that's coming to mind, which is just authenticity, inclusion, and belonging, and tied to that, world peace. And it's fun for me to be able to say that last part there, because I just came back from a 4-day intensive, the Rich Litvin Public Intensive, and through there, it's a place where I don't know what it is, but I know I had an intention. My intention was to come out of there and create myself as the movement leader that I knew I already was. And so for me, this was not about strategies. It wasn't about tactics. It wasn't about tips. It was just about, how can I practice for 4 days and being more of myself, and also understanding what does it really mean to be a leader, and what does my leadership mean to me. It's actually interesting. I'm here, I'm talking about leadership, and I see Tim Johnson over here. Tim, what is going on? It's interesting. I see that you're in Maine, and it's like you're having sun out there. I remember you when I went out to Portland a few years ago, wondering how the ninja gym is coming along right now. I don't typically associate sun and Maine, so I think it might be time for me to make another trip back out there. Let me know how that's coming along for you. But yeah, this aspect here, the time that I spent there was really focused on one thing. And the thing was, how do I create myself as the movement leader that I truly am? And what occurred for me was actually something that was really interesting. We did an exercise that kind of got into like, all right, what are the things that you don't want others to know, or that is, I don't even know how to describe it. They call it shadow work. I'll leave it at that. And I got up and I said something to everyone in the room to explain what I was feeling and my reaction to it. And I had this voice go on in the back of my mind. And the voice, it was quite loud. It said, "Okay, Nemo, now you've made a bit of a scene. You've said something here. Like, you are done. You cannot say anything else for at least the next 2 days, because if you do, then you'll be taking up too much space. If you do, then the people around you would really get annoyed because you have the tendency to go to these kinds of activities and really just you can be the center of attention if you don't watch it, and no one would want that. So just don't be careful, because if you don't watch yourself, you're going to be too much. And I'm very fortunate that thought came to mind, because I realized that in that moment that, to tell you the truth, out of all the things that I do and all the thoughts that I have, that feeling of being too much is likely one of the most damaging to me. See, I have a thing about wanting to be visible. I'm like, I need to be seen, or I want to be more seen. But when it's coming from me, it's not from a place of like, hey, I'm playing too small of a game, and I'm like, I need to build up the courage to be out there. But for me, it ends up being, and I'll just be real with you here, is that I'm almost a little afraid. No, not almost a little bit. I know for a fact that I'm afraid that if I did come out fully as I was, it would be too much. I look at my podcast as an example of this. So I started the podcast. I had 5 different episodes coming out a week. It was fun. Got a chance to meet a ton of new people. Came out with 5 episodes a week. And then people were like, oh, you know what? That's a lot. Like, I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll just cool it down for you a little bit here, and bring it down a level. Chris Feltner, great to see you here. Really, really happy that you came to join us here. So I have this thing where I'm hanging out and I'm making these podcast episodes. For me, it was awesome. 5 episodes a week. Man, I was meeting 5 new people every week. It was fantastic. But then I pulled back because it was a little bit too much for others. At least that was a sense that I was getting. So I pulled it down to 3. And then it was kind of like, turned into 1. And now I haven't made a new podcast episode in a while. I actually have a few that are coming up in the bank that are all related to Pioneers and the new direction of enjoyment, which is really around helping to support possibility seekers as they go on to understand what their unique strengths and talents are, so they can celebrate that and bring it out into the world in a very positive way to create positive change. I'm around culture champions on a regular basis, and it's my job, it's my duty to help make that okay for them. But, to that point, I've found that being too much has been a thing that is always kept, that is not always, but it's keeping me exactly where I am. That fear of being like, if people really saw what I was up to, if I really put all of my energy into it, if I came up and just smiled and said, "Hi, how are you? Pleasure to meet you. My name's Nemo. I am so thrilled that you were here," because that's how I feel, right? Not because it's some made up thing, but because that's legitimately how I feel. I just felt that it would be too much. And I really have to thank Rich and the team for the way that they constructed that public intensive, because I had 4 days to play with that. Got a small group where, to be honest, I'll just tell you what they told me because it was so helpful. But they came by and they said, leave it up to the leaders to choose if you're doing too much. They will trust them. If your hands is up too much, they won't call on you. It's that simple, and in the spirit of being real and, hiding nothing, holding nothing back, that's a commitment I make in every second of the day. I told them what was really on my mind. I'm like, I trust the leaders. I'm just afraid that the people in this room will look at me in a certain type of way. People in this room would not respect that. People in this room wouldn't like me, to be honest, and I would be out there alone and having to be in this amazing experience, but, with no one that actually enjoys my company because I decided to take up too much space. And they invited me to lean into that. They acknowledged it, and they invited me to lean into it. And they said something that started a major change for me over the next few days, which was, dude, you have to let them control their own experience. I get that it's really great of you to have that awareness of how much space you take, but it's up to them to be able to control their own experience. Perhaps you showing up as fully as you are is rubs something against them, something that makes them want to go and show up more fully. And then they might do it, maybe during these 4 days or maybe some other time. But that's a personal thing related to them, not to you. Who knows? Maybe you showing up as you truly are, you showing up with being too much and wherever you're coming from, might actually be a thing that gives other people courage, gives other people energy, makes their experience. And it was a really interesting thing to have in mind, because I've constantly thought I'm too much. How do I do this so that it's people can absorb it, people can take it? And I find that, quite frankly, the more and more that I lean into not doing that, the better the results are, both for me and for others. It's another reason why I like Facebook Lives. I came out and I said, I don't know if I'm going to be 5 minutes or an hour, but people have asked, they're like, why don't you just come up with a 2-minute short and to the point kind of video? And my thing is this, I want you to get to know me. I want to get to know me. I'm not going to lie. I'm really interested. Who's this Nemo guy? I'm living my life and I'm still trying to figure that out. And by taking this time, by taking the time to slowly go through it all, to get deep and to be out there, I don't know, I find that, to me, that ends up being way more valuable than the facade that I can put on, because I've learned how to do it. The facade to put on, I know what's going on, and I'm just at the top of my game. If there's anything that I'm at the top of, it's an experience and joy. For something about that, I've somehow allowed myself to bring that in, and you'll be hearing from me as I kind of walk through that, because I look at that, that joy, that fulfillment, and using that to create a business, using that to lead me into positive things, into the work that I've done, into the life out here that we're living in Singapore, into the people, the person I chose to marry, just one. From that perspective, there's a lot that I have to share. And it's interesting. I got a chance to spend some time in San Francisco this week, and what what came of it was that I went to a place called Phil's Coffee. Shout out to Phil's. I'm still not drinking coffee. I've decided when I came out to Singapore that I was going to stop that for a while. But I got a tea with my cousin, and it was wonderful. We went up there, and they then gave us an option to have sweetener. They're like, hey, so what kind of sweetener would you like? Would you like sugar? Would you like artificial sweetener? Would you like honey? I was like, I'm gonna ask for honey. And then they asked, well, what kind of sweetness would you like? Would you like it lightly sweetened, medium sweet, or just like really sweet? And I thought about it, and I told him, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking more on the light side, but I appreciate it. And then I really thought about it. I was like, wow. And this is the Nemo here. I said it out loud. I told the barista, I said, can I just say, I have never, ever experienced someone who has spent this much time and attention on my sweetness experience. I really appreciate that. I told it to her, and her eyes said, oh, wow, this guy notices. Like, that's so awesome that he's taken the time to comment that. But her mouth said something completely different. She just turns over to my cousin, and she's like, is this guy being sarcastic? And her obvious response was, no, that's just him. All right, that's just Nemo being Nemo. And I laugh and I smile about that here, mainly because it hurts me so much. It hurts me so very much that, we live in a world where a person can give a compliment and we can't necessarily accept it. A person can share what's on their mind, their truth for them in that moment, what's authentic and real for them in that moment. And it can almost feel, how do I say it? Almost like an attack in some sense. What is this guy trying to get on me? What is he like? Why is he working against my happiness by telling me something positive about myself? Like I'm probably going to make a video or send something over to Phil's, because I really just even her experience of that has now allowed me to share this with you. It's helped me find a little bit more about myself and what I'm trying to do, what I really feel. I look at enjoyment, and it's about empowering joy. Like that's where I play. That's what I do oh so well. And when I see those moments, a couple things come to mind. I'm like, look, firstly, it's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. People ask me, like, how do you cultivate so much joy? It's weird, because that specific question has come up a few times in the last week, and I appreciate those people who've asked me, because it helps shine a light onto my own unique talent. I didn't know it was a talent. I didn't know it was a gift. I just had it, and that's often the time. It was a blind spot for me. It was a thing that, because it came more naturally to me, I didn't think too much of it. And I have to, one of the big things that I work with my pioneers on is really understanding that those things that come easy to them, like, those are their gifts. Those are the things that don't deplenish you, and actually replenish you. Like, I can come on to joy. Joy is almost like an unending source of power for me. I can keep coming back to it. I can always find something else that makes me happy. Megan, Nathan, it's so good to see y'all. It's been a while since we've gotten a chance to connect here. I want to welcome you to this conversation. I'm just walking through Singapore and sharing my thoughts, a little bit of a debrief on a personal level on the 4-day experience that I had at the Rich Litvin Public Intensive, as well as my thoughts on authenticity, inclusion, and belonging, because quite frankly, it turns out that's the game that I've been playing. That's the game that I've always been playing. So as I continue through the intensive, I had that feeling of, okay, what if me showing up this way and taking up more space, what if that was a place that I could play? And so I was kind of challenged to go off, and they said the next day, put your hand up for everything. Be involved in everything that you could. And the next day showed up, and I'm happy to say that I did the absolute opposite. I just sat down in the chair and kept waiting for the right time, waiting for the perfect question to come to mind, waiting for the right thing to say next, and really biding my time, because I'm like, oh well, if I say something now, then I may not get like the ultimate experience later on. So I'll hold off now, and then maybe I'll get myself over in the right position a little bit later on. And that kind of was following me up until about like 5 o'clock, when basically most of the day had already transpired. We went back to our small groups, and I let them know. I was like, oh y'all, here goes the deal. It didn't happen. I have not been playing big. I have not been too much. I've been just all the same things that have been in my mind have come along, and I appreciate the group for their support there with what happened as it went on. So the day continued. There was another event that took place in the evening, and at the very end there were questions, and I felt myself sitting in the chair, waiting and trying to figure out what's the right question, what's the right thing, how do I do it, how do I like I said I was going to come here to create myself as a movement leader that I truly am, but I can't even ask a question in front of these people here. I can't even ask a question with someone else who I find to be truly powerful and inspiring in my presence. And so ultimately what happened was I raised my hand without the question of really being there, and then the question that was important to me came up, and I got called upon, and I asked it. Oddly enough, or funny enough, when I asked the question, the response was a genuine, yeah, I have no clue. I have no idea how that happened. I have no, it was a deep question that was answered as honestly as possible. And it was just really funny to me because I think about it and I'm like, I actually don't need you to know. That's not the point. I needed to ask this question. I needed to be seen. I needed to go up and do my thing. Bum, bum, bum. But the answer to the question would have been nice, but there was also a lot more in it for me from that perspective. And it opened up the doors. It opened up a lot from there. I had some people come up and talk to me about their interpretation of my question and how they would answer it, and some of the things that have been true to them as they figured things out with that, which was really fantastic. And I'm happy that I asked the question, because even though I didn't get the response in the moment that I was looking for, I was able to really connect with some others afterwards. And that was a really interesting thing. Like, that aspect of being too much actually allowed others to come towards me and help me move forward there. And I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to come out here and share that today. The next big thing for me actually took place, I think it was the following day. And I was sitting there watching a conversation take place on stage, where Giovanna was just like owning the room. And I was like, wow, she's so powerful, but her power is completely different than Rich's. It was just like, it's her own thing. And like, she just seems so comfortable. What is it? I was like, it's the comfort. It's like no matter what gets tossed her way, she got this. You know, there's nothing that can touch her. There's nothing that can that can frazzle her. It's like, let's go, let's play. That's how I would describe it. I'm sure she would use different words. And it made me think back to a couple different things that had happened, even just over those first 2.5 days. And it got me thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I wish I was that comfortable here. It would be so much fun if I was able to be that comfortable. And what came through my mind was that up until that point, I'd actually been testing everyone that I've been with. I've been testing to see, hey, like, are you going to be all right with Nemo bringing all of his Nemo-ness to the conversation? Are you okay? Like, can I be myself amongst you? I have a lot of energy. I'm a huge extrovert. I'm like, am I going to be changing? Is this going to be working against the energy of the room? You know, especially when I go to group things and I'm like, I'm an extrovert. Like, am I just extroverting all over you, you know? And as I was thinking about that, I'm like, man, I just want to belong here. I just want to belong here. And what was interesting is, like, I was already included, but I didn't, because they were answering questions. I was there. People were talking to me. There's no issue there. But from my own sense, I wasn't sure if I felt a feeling of belonging. Are these my people? Am I their people? And so on and so forth. And luckily, there was a gentleman, Adam Quiney, had come on earlier, and he had tossed out a question that basically said, you know, instead of him trying to gain permission into a group, Richard asked him, what if you had just started from this position? What if you were already in it? Where would we take things from there? And that question came to mind as I was having this this thought process take place around my own, do I feel included? I feel like I'm being somewhat authentic, but I don't know if I necessarily belong. And it just really came out to be like, well, the question came to mind, Nemo, what if you already belonged? What if you being here Like, these are your people. This is your community. I see Madeline's here, and I know that she's my people. And so is Allison. So it's great to see you both here. I'm like, these are my peeps. But the question came to mind. Okay, Nemo, what if you already belonged? What if you had a very special role to play in this community? What if everyone was actively looking for and excited for you to be here because of who you are, because of the fact that you are silly and fun and energetic and deep and all the things, and because you are so dedicated to your mission and dedicated to others? What if you already belonged and everyone in this room wanted you to be more of yourself because they knew what would come from that? And I kid you not, and it's part of the reason why I'm sharing this with you right now, it changed everything. It became the most powerful question that I've asked myself in a long time. It's part of the reason why I'm standing here just making this video for you. And I don't have to do anything. I didn't have to prep. I don't have to be anything. Because I asked myself, what if someone watches this either today, 16 years from now, whatever it is, and I already belonged. I've already made the impact. All I have to do is just show up. What if? And it's a place that for the rest of the weekend, I got a chance to play from. I got a chance to come from, you know? It wasn't a thing that I needed to earn. These were my people, and they wanted me because I was me. It led to some really interesting conversations. So I got a chance to practice being authentic. I got a chance to be included in a lot of different things. I felt it. And I really got a chance to go through a place of saying, like, wow, I belong because I choose to belong. I belong because I choose to belong to myself. And I know what I have to bring to the table, and others are able to get something from that. And I get something from them. That's why we're here. One of the interesting things that came from all this here was a conversation with someone named Jackie around flow, limiting beliefs, and world peace. And she was telling me something that she was doing, and I was laughing about it, just thinking about it. And she was telling me, like, some of the people that she's been having conversations with, and, like, you know, the height and the authority that each of these people have. Like, I'll share my experience of it, but she said something about, you know, meeting with the crown prince of blah, 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 right? And I say blah, blah, blah because, like, as soon as I heard crown prince, my mind went, what? Shit, what? But the cool part about that there is that, like, it was just part of a conversation. It wasn't anything major. But she was talking about how she was engaging in conversations around the work that she did and world peace. And it's funny because I know, like, the biggest moments for me usually come with a question that goes like, you can do that? So I was like, wait, you can talk about flow and limiting beliefs and world peace. You can do that, and you can do this with leaders across the world, and you don't have to shy away from it. You don't have to pull away from it. You can just be and say it. That was unheard of in my mind. That just couldn't be done in my mind. You know, to go around world peace, you had to be taking care of hunger, or you had to be, you know, looking at war, or whatever it was. Like, world peace just could not come through the work that was so closely related to what I wanted. And it got me thinking, and it shifted some things. I mean, and I have to thank her, and I will thank her. So thank you, Jackie, because she made me think about bigger than I've ever thought. Her possibilities, the things that she's working on, are so exciting that it makes world peace like, oh yeah, duh, that's a definite possibility. Like, what you're talking about, like, that seems impossible, but world peace, yeah, we got that. That is that's doable. And I love that reframe, that shift there. So, like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is something that I know is possible within our lifetime to have world peace. And I'm going to take it up a step from there. For me, I'm talking about world joy. World peace to me is a bunch of us being able to coexist with each other, which would be really fantastic, and just having that together would be it'd be awesome. The world joy, though, is not just the coexisting, but we're all able to really, again, go back to it, celebrate and value and appreciate one another because of our own unique contributions and our unique gifts, right? A place where no matter where you are in the world, you feel like, man, I'm connected to you, and I want to see you be successful because I will be successful, and I want to be successful because it will make you successful, and so on and so forth. And this is the vision that I'm playing with. I'm playing with this vision here, the vision that I'm working toward, a place where, like, you know what, maybe no one even needs to work, but they choose to work because they have something that they want to contribute, and it brings them joy and it brings other people together. So that was a major shift for me. It was a major shift for me, and you're going to see that's a place where I'm coming from going forward. And it's these kinds of things where, you know, I really wanted to just take some time to just share and let you know like what's going on here, and really the opportunity that we have. The opportunity that we have to come together and create a more joyful world. And going back to that story I shared about Phil's coffee, I don't think it takes that much. I really don't think it takes that much. I think it actually comes down to whether or not we're choosing to practice joy. And look, I'll be upfront about this here. It's the reason why I started Empjoyment in the first place, because I was living in the U.S. At the time, about a year after, not even a year, but it was months after the recent presidential election from 2016. And what had happened was that I was finding myself in conversations with a lot of my friends, some of the smartest people that I knew, some of the people who inspired me and made me really feel like I had done something, that I was someone, right? Because I got a chance to be them. And if you're watching this, you're likely one of those people, right? Because quite frankly, I say I'm fortunate, but I actually realize it's a direct design of the way that I've chosen to go about doing things. I have people in my life that are just fantastic. I'm meeting up with a number of them tonight. We're throwing a party here in Singapore, and it was like, Nicole and I were like, we can do this. We've met so many awesome people all throughout this country that it's time for them to get to meet each other. And I'm like, it's not too much to come out and just do that right now. It's not too much to just come out and say, like, yeah, this is what's happening. We're going for it. We're going all in on it. And I'm not going to shy away from that. So we've had all these people, we've had all these things come up. And when I was hanging out in New York with my friends, we would have conversations, and it was clear that people were distraught around what they felt was the state of their nation and what they had seen as their world. And what was interesting to me, and what was also really saddening and painful to me, was that these people that I legitimately look at as being some of the best people that I've ever had the opportunity of being around, there was a sense of hopelessness that had washed over them for a number of months. But what can we do about it? What can we do? There's nothing we can do about it. That was a common thing, common comment. I'm like, of course there's things that we can do about it. There's always things that we can do. That's the thing. We're fortunate enough to be able to make choices and make decisions. We can go ahead and do it. And what came for me was that I'm like, wow, here are some of the people who've in a lot of different ways have achieved success from what a lot of people might consider it from an external perspective. And yet at the same time, they may not feel all that empowered to be able to use that success, use the privilege, quote unquote, as people like to say. I actually don't like that word because it makes, in my mind, it makes it feel like, you know, bad for just living your life. I'm not about that as much, but at the same time, I'll use it because it's a common phrase. But they have all this opportunity that's around them that they've earned, that they've worked for it. Or maybe, I'm not even going to get into it, not for this video. It'll come up another time. And yet they didn't feel like they can do anything. And it was interesting to me because one of my hypotheses around some of the civil unrest that we're seeing is around basically socioeconomic empowerment, and whether or not people feel empowered to be able to basically create the life that they want for themselves and their family. When I really look down to it, it all comes back to, like, can we just have like the basic like ability to just live and be happy? And when I look around and I see different things like, people being blamed, or whole groups of people by just blocks, they're just blocks of identity, just being blamed one way or another, or being called on as a source of a problem. That to me is not an external problem. It's not any of their faults. To me, it comes out as, hey, I personally don't have enough power. I personally don't have enough faith, or feel like I have enough resources available to me to be able to live my life the way that I want. And so someone else must have taken it. Someone else, if someone else has it, that should have been mine. And Leah, it's great to see you on here. And Matt, I also appreciate you all taking some time to just spend some time here. All of you that are watching this live or later on, I just appreciate you. I have 10% left on my battery, probably 9, so I'm not going to be going that much longer. But I say all this thing here because to me it came out to be an issue of empowerment, an issue of can I do anything around me? Can I actually take control of what's happening in my life, or what's happening in the lives of? Actually, you can only really control yourself, right? But can I create something that is different? And that's what got me started on this journey. That's what really got me here, because I was seeing it. It was pretty much, I call it an epidemic. It feels like an epidemic, and it feels like those people who should know that they have power, that they have the ability to do what they want to do, that they have the ability to change their circumstances on any given day, they don't feel it. They don't believe it. And I know from my experience of telling a Phil's Coffee barista that I appreciated the way that she thought about my sweetness experience, that it's also really, really hard for people to take that in. It's you can't just externally empower someone, right? It's an intrinsic thing. People talk about, Nemo, you're such a motivational speaker. I'm like, no. Motivation is so short term. It's so short lived. I'm definitely not inspirational, because inspiration I don't think takes action. Motivation might lead to action, but it's just a short term base there. I'm really big on intrinsic motivation. That's why I do company culture, because it gets to the behaviors of people, and it says, how do you shift it so that people want to be here and people want to do the things that will ultimately lead to success for your organization or for your community? And I look at that culture thing as from an individual person. How do you do it? How do you shift what's happening within you to make, I'm going like this with my head there. How do you shift what's going on within you to bring that up and help you do the things that you want to do? I've now taken that even a step further. I now focus on transformation, which is just all right, if we can just shift you don't need to be empowered. You don't need to be motivated. It's just who you are. It's just what you do. There's nothing that comes from it. It just is. And I didn't realize that until I started down this journey, that the power of transformation, cultural transformation, individual transformation, leadership transformation. And for me, it all comes back to just those first 3 words: authenticity, inclusion, and belonging. And I will be very upfront in saying that I truly believe with every fiber in my body and every cell that flows within me, every atom that powers me, that the key to world peace and world joy is just that, is just being more authentic and being comfortable and embracing it within our own skin, to allow ourselves to be ourselves so that others can be their selves, and to feel that we are enough, and to feel that we are empowered enough to be able to make what we want to come to life without it having to be at the detriment of someone else. And someone else's success has no reflection on ours other than to be a beacon of light as to what is possible for us. If we get, when we get to that, because I said, I see it. I know that this is possible for us within my lifetime. I'm going for it. I'm going all in on it. When we accomplish that, I see the issues that we see on a day-to-day basis just melting away, just disappearing. I see the progress that we can make as both a country in America and as a world altogether being I can't even tell you that. I was gonna say 10-fold, 20-fold, but I'm gonna go even more than that, 1,000-fold. If we stop spending our energy just trying to survive, and we're able to get to a place where we were able to spend our energy creating and building and sharing and growing with one another, contributing. Think about that. Think about what, like, if you right now could give up one thing that you were doing that you were doing just to barely make it, and you could replace it with something that would just be incredibly empowering, something that would like change your life, something that would move you forward. And if you just made that one switch on that, like that one area, picture what could happen for you. And then I start thinking about that as it continues on for other people and the ripple effects of that as well. And to me, the world just looks so different. And I'm not afraid of putting that out there. I'll be honest, a week ago, totally would not have been afraid. And it's just so simple. It's so interesting. I'm talking to you all right now. I'm in the most relaxed that I've been in a very long time. Like, I'm saying all this stuff. My heart isn't like jumping out of my chest. It just is. It's like, it's just what I believe and what I know to be true. It's going to take some time to get there. Sure. And it might take one person at a time, one video at a time. Oh, I almost ate it, by the way. I was like, y'all saw it. I was smooth, but I almost like took a huge tumble. That's how serious this is. But yeah, it might be one person at a time, one community at a time, one organization at a time. You know, people are like, I was struggling for a bit to say, why do I still want to do company culture? What is it about company culture that gets me? Aren't you about authenticity, possibility, inclusion? Like, why company culture? I realized that it's because as humans, we spend so much of our time in our company organizations. And if for 8+ hours a day, we are reminded and encouraged to be something that we are not, then I can see why we would have a huge difficulty being able to embrace who we truly are. If we're asked to wear a mask, quote unquote, using words that people are using nowadays, masks. If we're asked to wear a mask, the majority of the time that you're awake and with other people, then of course it will be difficult to understand yourself. Of course it will be difficult to know what's really real and authentic to you. So spending time, I'm actually not going to do this right now, spending time working with companies on their culture and giving them a chance to transform that and allow their employees to show up differently is completely in line with my mission. It's completely in line with the work that we're doing here. And I'm very happy to play this game of transformation. I'm very excited to see where it goes, not just for me, but for you, each of the pioneers that I work with, these possibility seekers who are off to big things in the world, and they're like, I'm tired. I'm tired of being someone who has a big goal, but not bringing it to life. I'm tired of being someone that, you know, when I think about the things that I feel can be accomplished, feel a little bit bad putting it out there because to a lot of other people, it's just way too much. Oh, there it is again, being too much. Hey, Kaylee. Hey, Emily. It's good to see all of you. I get excited because now I'm spending my time specifically dedicating my life to these pioneers. Because through these pioneers, I get steps closer to my ultimate vision, to my ultimate mission of bringing together a truly inclusive and empowered world. I'm starting right now with people who are ready for that. I'm starting right now to help people like myself who are either empowered or on the verge of it or just really want it. I'm helping them to have a space to practice being themselves, similar to what the intensive gave me. To have an opportunity to understand what their unique gifts are, what their unique talents are, who they are and who they want to be, what they want to see out in the world. And it's interesting because I say since I started Actuarial Journey or pro-social learning back in the day, I've always been around 3 words: guidance, accountability, and support. And at first I thought the accountability was accountability to your tasks. Are you studying when you said you were going to study? Are you doing all these things? You said you were going to do this. Did you do it? But now I realize that the real accountability, at least accountability on my level and above, it's an accountability to yourself. Are you being the person that you know you can be? Are you being the person that you really want to be? Are you being all of you in every moment? And how does how would it be if when you're coming from that place, you use that to go ahead and create and move forward? So I play accountability on a very different scale nowadays. And it's fun. I have fun. Like people come up and they're like, I can't believe this is happening. Things that I've been waiting 3 years to do, I did it in the last 2 weeks. And I don't know how it came to life. I didn't know how we got in contact, but it's happening. I get these kinds of stories. We have friends that wanted to become artists, and they're like, well, right now I'm doing marketing. I'm not necessarily sure how to make that come to life. And they stepped into the possibility of coming from being an artist. And they, within 6 weeks, sold their first 2 pieces of art, and it's now being prominently displayed within the country. They wanted to be a teacher in the art that they did, and they're getting questions and quandaries that are coming around the work that they're doing. I know people who are getting new jobs that are levels above where they were beforehand, not because they were better at talking to recruiters or anything like that, but because they came in from a place of like, this is who I am. I know my value, I know my worth, and I know what I'm looking for. And I'm able to come to you with that on this as I am. I get excited about this because it's real for me. It feels nice. It feels, I'll be honest, I'll be really real with y'all right now. It feels quite amazing for me personally that this just feels natural. It feels relaxed. It doesn't feel, I don't need to be hyped for it. I don't need to be sad. I don't need to be like energized. It just is. So I'm off here creating this. I'd love to invite you to be a part of this. If any of this resonates with you, do me a favor, share this video, leave me a comment. It's really helpful to get some feedback around what went right, what resonated with you, because that's what I need. I don't need to know. I really don't need to know what didn't resonate. That's probably more something I'm gonna let you walk through. But I would be very curious about what went right? When did you feel me the most here? Because that's only going to help me understand myself more. That's going to help me understand. I'll talk to people. People are like, why don't you tell me any of my weaknesses? Because I'm like, quite frankly, if I'm telling you a weakness, it's probably a weakness because it's a weakness in me, or it's a strength in me. It's something that I personally look at and say, well, why isn't this person doing it this way? That's why I focus on the strengths, because I'm like, this is something that you can do that I couldn't do. And that makes it unique to you. And please know that and hone that and make that even better, because if you're doing that and it's already so easy for you, what would it be like if you were trying? What if it would be like if you 10x that? That would be far. If you put in 10 more hours towards working on that, you would get so much more than me putting in 100 hours towards it. Think about it. Think about that thing that you're not that great at, that everyone tells you to try and get better at. And you keep trying and trying and trying. And they're like, well, if you just put in a little bit more. And it has nothing to do with the things where when you're just left off to just do your own thing, it just seems to magically come to life. And you're like, wow, how did you do that? Wow, that's such a great result. How did that come to life? And you're like, I don't know. I just did the thing. It wasn't that complicated. Because you're playing from your strengths. You're playing from your strengths. And I'm going to end it here with that, mainly probably because I'm probably at 2% battery, but also because I'm I really want to encourage you to think about what your strengths are. I want to encourage you to think about a time that things that come easy to you, and just embracing that just a little bit as you go by. Because if you got even just a little bit more and just said, perhaps I see this more clearly, or I'm embracing this more fully, one shift, one small thing could lead to all the rest of it. I'm so thrilled that I stood up that first day at the Rich Living Public Intensive and I said something, because it was on my way down after sitting down that made me realize that I just thought I was too much. Well, sorry world, I'm not sorry. I am too much, and I'm so thrilled because of it. I am grateful for you. I'm grateful for me. I'm thrilled about what we have as opportunities for each and every one of us here. And I'm not backing down. I'm not backing down at all. Inclusion, authenticity, belonging, world peace. It's possible. It's going to happen during my lifetime. And that's just it. So here we go. I'll end it right here with a challenge. Please find one person in the next 2 days. Actually, let's make this 24 hours. It's not that complicated. Find one person in the next 24 hours and tell them something true that's positive and true to you, right? It could be your experience. I did it with the barista where I said, I've never had someone care about my sweetness experience the way that you have. It's not that I've never had someone care about me that way. It's just that aspect of just telling someone your truth and letting them know that A, you see them, B, you're witnessing them, and that you appreciate it. And I think if everyone watching this video made that decision in the next 24 hours, I promise you, the world will be a better place. You can create that kind of change immediately. It is not that complicated. We're going to start with that there. So I appreciate you. Thank you for watching this. Please tell one person your truth. It doesn't need to be extensive. It could be just like 5 words. But just let them know. And Madeline, I appreciate you here. Be you fully. I'm going to take that and say, I'm going to encourage you to be more you every day. Just a little bit more of yourself. If you can do that, 0.1% every day. I'm very excited for what will happen in the long run. All right. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I'm very excited for the joy that you bring forth in your world and to those around you. Journey on.